Hello, hello. Welcome back to Baki Talki Season 2. The hiatus is over. We're back. This intro isn't as exciting because this is take two after my dog interrupted. But you know what is exciting? My guest today, it's my dad.
Hello.
Welcome on the show, Dad. How's it going?
Thank you, son.
You know what? I'm going to do something special today. I'm going to ask you the same questions that I've asked every other guest who's ever been on the show. So, first off, what shows are you currently watching?
I have a couple of shows I would like to comment upon. It starts with the fact that I don't really watch much TV when I was thinking about this question. The one thing that I always watch is my Buffalo Bills play football on Sunday. And I realized, while that's not a show, it's very representative of Baki Season 1, which I have not watched because the guests are not supposed to have seen the show, but I've listened to your podcast. And that seemed to be a group of great warriors trying to seek out defeat. And if you are a Buffalo Bills fan these days, you have one team of great warriors trying to seek out 13 different defeats from other mighty warriors. And I can imagine the narrator saying, yes, the Buffalo Bills appear to have won this, but they have left the Kansas City Chiefs 13 seconds with which to experience defeat. And they have left Minnesota Vikings one fumble into the end zone, which they need only recover to defeat the mighty Buffalo Bills. So being a fan of the Buffalo Bills is very similar to the first season of Baki. But more to the point, the only show I really watched, I binge watched Downton Abbey, if you can believe it. And
was it your choice, or was somebody with you who wanted to watch that show?
So what happened was Katie asked me to go to the movie when it first came out. And, you know, if you can buy popcorn at a movie, I'll go watch almost anything. And so I watched that, and, you know, it didn't really interest me that much. And they made another, and I went to that. And then just one day I watched episode 1, and it is so well written and so well acted. It's just a soap opera, but it's a really fun one. Especially Maggie Smith is spectacular. So everybody else has probably already watched it, but those few who haven't, I give it 2 thumbs up, and I'm the least likely person to have ever watched that show. And
no,
then
I agree. I think everybody who's listening to the Baki podcast has watched Downton Abbey, but still a good recommendation.
You wouldn't think the Venn diagram actually would have much of an overlap on those two.
Long time no see. Hey, Mr. Ogre?
Muhammad Ali Jr., all grown up at last. I was a big fan of your father's.
But maybe it does.
Honestly, I'm still hung up. That was a great comparison of the Bills to season 1 of Baki. I thought you were just going to say that, like, O.J. Simpson was one of the deadliest death row convicts.
Well, I guess you could go there, but no, I think seeking out defeat in extreme, bizarre manner would have just slid right into that first season in Baki for sure.
I've gone to Minnesota to taste defeat.
Yes, right. Exactly. And you, Zach Wilson, everyone else might think you are not a mighty warrior, but we shall make you look victorious today.
So, as you can probably guess, I'm going to ask the second question, but what do you know about Baki coming into this episode? Seems like you're familiar with the first season.
Well, I had never watched an episode. What I was anticipating was Baki would not be a very big part of the show other than his title, and that there would be a lot of gore and battles, and I don't think I was disappointed on really either of those fronts.
Yes. Yeah, I will say season 2 has a lot more Baki. Like, the first season is 5 death row inmates and 5 guys they fight, and then Baki is just sort of there to date Kozue. But this season narrows the focus down a lot more, and Baki at least gets some stuff to do, such as be emaciated from all of the poison running through his veins.
Right.
Yeah, he doesn't usually look like that. But let's jump into this episode, because there's a lot to talk about. And I think, first of all, you get the rare pleasure of getting to talk about it. We have a new theme song. So what did you think of the opening theme?
Sucked. I seem to remember discussion about music last year, and then I heard this, and I couldn't wait for it to be over. So.
This is the music that I use from the podcast. Like, this is my favorite theme.
Oh, well, the others can't be that great. It was not my style of music.
Oh, man. Yeah, so this opening, it has Baki sort of standing in the Coliseum where the Grand Rai-tai tournament takes place. And then it just cuts to mostly static images of people to save money on animation, as well as foreshadowing some fights that might happen this season between Yujiro and an old man, and Baki and Muhammad Ali Jr. So a little foreshadowing for what we might get in this season. Right after the opening theme, we get potentially one of my favorite quotes of the season, and I really wanted to get your opinion on this.
At least once in their lives, every man dreams of becoming the strongest in the world.
I as you know, I have two sons who I believe each hilariously at one stage thought that they either were or would become the strongest man in the world. So I thought, you know what? He's bang on with that. And it can be quite funny at times as well. So yeah, I thought I was nodding my head. Yes. And I also thought it was also appropriate that, of course, the son could never hope to defeat the father in a battle of strength. But that's, I guess, to be proven on the rest of the series.
It is one of the funniest parts about this show. Like, I brought it up before, but like, Baki wants to be the strongest guy in the world only because his dad is the strongest guy in the world. Like, if his dad was the weakest guy in the world, Baki would only want to be the second weakest guy in the world. Like,
yeah. Well, I when I saw that, I understood why you were so taken with the show, because you must be empathetic with Baki.
It's tough. It's tough to have the world's strongest dad. Yeah,
it must be
really, really related to this. Most men give up on their pursuit, but my dad kept going until he became the strongest man in the world. Yeah. I had one other note. So the season starts with a little bit of a recap, almost like they didn't expect you to. I don't know who jumps into the show at this point, but it talks about, you know, the idea of Baki wanting to be stronger than his dad, and then it talks about a bunch of death row inmates came to Japan and tries to, in 2 sentences, sum up the previous season. And I just wanted to comment on the fact that it said,
in Japan, where Baki lives, the strongest inmates on death row came together, and a series of brutal showdowns unfolded between them and Baki.
Which is not true. Like, Baki didn't even interact with half of them. The one time
I thought they fought each other, like that from listening to the podcast.
They fought a bunch of random people. Yeah, Baki fought 2 of them in a field and then ran away because he got bored. That was the biggest fight he had. But I think the only reason they brought that up is because they have to explain why Baki looks like the Crypt Keeper, like why he is poisoned, and that was from a quick encounter with Yanagi the Poisoner.
In one of those fights, Baki was poisoned. On the verge of death, he was rushed to China for treatment.
But anyway, I just wanted to not let the narrator gaslight us there.
I didn't understand. Baki, I think, was in Japan when he's poisoned.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Why would they airlift him to China? I would think Japanese medical care would be as good as anywhere in the world. Why would you leave there and go to another continent for care?
So 2 things. 1, Japanese medical care, the doctor basically said, you're going to die, so just deal with it. Modern medicine had no cure for him. And 2, he's not going to China to go to the hospital. Like, fighting these 12 dudes, like the Kaios, is his medical treatment.
Yeah, they say that at one stage. It makes no sense.
Hey, you want to bet if it works? Because I'm going to take the over on this working.
I was skeptical of that assertion on the part of the narrator.
Oh man, just wait until he gets healed from his sickness. It's one of my favorite parts of the season. The episode starts for real. Our first real scene. We get a really fun interaction, and I'll ask you to describe what happens. But we have Muhammad Ali Jr. talking to Yujiro Hanma, and they get into a little bit of a confrontation.
But what I was found interesting was the depth of the technical references to boxing style and bantamweight and flyweight, and they're not inaccurate.
Listing it off, he hits like a heavyweight.
Your speed's pretty nice. Your father was a heavyweight in his time, but his speed was closer to lightweights and featherweights. And your speed's more like a bantamweight or a flyweight.
Right, and he compares the two of them, and it's correct. I mean, it's an accurate assessment of Ali's career. He was a heavyweight fighter, but he didn't really have the heavyweight physique. He was sleek and fast, and so
the thing about this show is it is a passion project about a guy who really loves every form of martial arts, including boxing. So the details are there.
And everything they said about Ali Muhammad's fighting style, I sort of grew up in his era. Not that I was a boxing fan, but it all rang true. Mm-hmm. So I was surprised by that, just how good it was.
And what did you think about the Ali Agari maneuver?
Ridiculous. It's like a dog playing dead. I mean, I don't understand that. That made no sense to me. And Muhammad Ali Jr. Demonstrates that by just saying, "Okay, well, I'm out of here."
So for listeners, the Ali Agari maneuver, I believe, is actually based on a real thing where Muhammad Ali had a show fight in Japan. It's where you lay down on the ground so that the boxer can't hit you, and if he got close, then you could kick him or something.
It was who was he fighting? In that was just some guy, right? It was very hard to keep track of the characters.
The red-haired guy? That's Yujiro Hanma. That's Baki's dad.
Yeah. Well, okay. Oh, yeah. Right. I figured that out later.
Yeah.
At that scene, I had no idea who this guy was, and I have to say, it was hard to keep track of the plot for a while because I was so distracted by his pecs. They were preposterously big, and it took me a while to figure out whether because his outfit was so long and flowing and had like frilly white sleeves, I wasn't sure if it was a dress, and I wasn't 100% sure whether that was a guy or a lady. So
he does have long hair.
Yeah, he has the voice was clearly that of a man, but it took me a while to figure out. And those pecs are just unbelievable.
You should see his back. But yeah. So that's Yujiro. It's fun. In the first season, Yujiro didn't really get a lot to do, but he is the evilest, the strongest, and one of the most entertaining characters on the show. We get to see a lot of him. Like his reaction when Ali just walks out of the building, I think he kicked the ground so hard people thought there was an earthquake.
See ya.
You bastard!
No. I believe they said, "Oh no, it's a terrorist."
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was a terrorist attack.
What's happening? It's a terrorist attack!
which was bizarre. I was expecting an earthquake. Yeah, you heard that little whimpering. Yeah, yeah. So he was not happy, but it's what he deserved. I mean, that is all these great warriors. That is not an impressive style of attack, I would say.
Yeah. Now, the fun thing about this episode that I love is that we don't just get so Muhammad Ali shows that one way you beat the Ali Agari dilemma is you just go, oh, you're already laying on the ground, and just leave and just, psychologically flex on your opponent.
I mean, why do I even need to do anything at all to counter it? If you choose to lie down for me, I can just turn and walk out of this room.
Later in the episode, we get to see, this was referenced last season, but we didn't actually see how it fully went. To enter the Grand Rai-tai tournament, Muhammad Ali has to fight one of the monks at the temple. And the monk does the Ali Agari maneuver on him. And this time, instead of walking away, Muhammad Ali goes down and dodges about 700 kicks with his flyweight speed, and then just punches the guy into submission. What did you think of these different approaches to the same problem?
Well, the second one makes sense because the first one kind of doesn't make any sense at all. They're going to have a battle and he just walks out the door. The second one was Muhammad Ali. He was floating like a butterfly and then stinging like a bee. And they had set it up with all his moves and everything. So that made sense. It was satisfying to see. Is that the one where he's hopping up and down though?
Oh, he's always hopping up and down. that's how he fights. When that's like his game time. He'll just start hopping.
Yeah, but I mean, again, there's a little bit of truth to that. But in the show, it looked cartoonish is a bad word to use, but it just looked a little silly, like Scooby-Doo-ish. I don't know. It was. I found that a little odd.
I agree. It does seem sort of like a cartoon power thing. Like it's like I've entered fighting mode and just start hopping.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's one of those things, and I'll fact check myself on this, but I've never been particularly impressed with the animators for this show. I think that the original manga has a lot of really dynamic images and a lot of great source material, and whenever they try and bring that to life, it looks weird. So I feel like this could be just a scenario where, like, when you see a comic frame of Muhammad Ali hopping, it looks less weird than if he's just jumping all the time. But... Yeah.
I get what you're saying. The story isn't animated as well as it could be. Yeah, mm-hmm. I mean, it's kind of it's a gross understatement when you see how it's animated, but I know what you mean.
So that was a fun theory, but I did fact check it, and oh my god, Muhammad Ali is animated as if he was vibrating off of this plane of existence. He's drawn that way in the manga. So I think they did a pretty faithful recreation of what Itagaki was going for. One new scene in this episode is we are introduced to one of the Kaios who is dipping his hand in a bunch of vases and talking to his brother. I found that scene pretty pointless. Did you have anything you wanted to comment on there?
Well, I wasn't sure where they were going. I don't know. The hand dipping seemed very important, but then wasn't. Mm-hmm. Didn't know who they were, but the guy who's dipping the hands shows up later in the episode. So yes. I don't know, maybe they both do too. It's hard to keep the characters straight.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I have to. The fun thing for this season will be mentally getting all of the Kaio names together, and they're also.
I know they all had the same name as far as I could
Kaio
tell.
Yo, Kaio Joe, Kaio.
The only one I remember is Kaio Mo because I was waiting for Kaio Larry and Curly. So.
Kaio Ryu, Kaio Retsu, Kaio Sun, Kaio Yo, Kaio Chin, Kaio Joe, Kaio Mo, Kaio Dorian, Kaio Someone, Kaio Lee, Kaio Han,
Psycho Mantis,
Kaio Jaku.
Oh man, yeah, because the Kaio doesn't help because we already have like Kaio Retsu, Kaio Dorian, Kaio Ryu. So I know 3 of them, and we have nine more we're going to see in this season. So I guess that takes us to the tournament. I guess I'll just rephrase what this tournament is, because we're going to be talking about it a lot this season. This is a tournament that takes place every 100 years. The Grand Rai-tai tournament takes place every 100 years. There are 12 competitors in there who are the Kaios, basically China's 12 best martial artists. And then the Grand Kaio, who is amazingly 146 years old, who won the previous tournament.
Folks, this is unbelievable! Yes, it's really him! After 100 years, he's returned!
After 10,000 years, I'm free! It's time to conquer Earth!
And then, of course, the 3 foreigners. We have Yujiro Hanma, his son Baki Hanma, and Muhammad Ali Jr.
So like that was like, why did they do it like that? They go on and on and on about it's 12 this, 12 signs of the zodiac, 12 apostles.
The 12 Apostles of Christ is my favorite, yeah.
And then 4 seasons in 8 directions. What are those 8 directions? Like north, south, east, west?
I think it's gotta be.
I
think it's. Oh, that's a good question. I was imagining north, south, east, west, northeast, southwest, and all those. I can fact check what the Chinese 8 directions are. Editor Steve here. So a quick Google of China 8 directions gives me directions to my local Chinese place, China 8. So hopefully that helps.
So anyway, they go on 12, 12, 12, 12. And then instead of having like 9 Kaio-zos or Mo's or whatever, and these 3 characters they want to throw into the mix, they make it 12 random Kaio, well, not random, but 12 Kaios. And then, and alas, this is once every 100 years they have this tournament. And it's like, and the officials have added at the last second 3 more guys to this 12-man tournament. Like, that's ridiculous. Why didn't they just make it 9 and these were 3 of the 12?
Yeah. No, it makes total sense. The fact that Baki didn't even know he was joining this tournament that only takes place 100 years until 2 days beforehand. But
and then if they're going to come in running in at the last second and say, oh, wait, we got 3 more guys we need in the tournament, but you, one of them, we need to test one more thing. We're not 100% sure you're qualified for this last second addition to the once in 100-year tournament that we didn't have time to organize.
Now, before we actually begin this match, one more thing. There's an issue I have to bring up.
There's an issue? What's going on?
Our beloved martial arts grandmaster Kaio Ryu is obviously qualified to fight in this tournament. But what about his opponent, Yujiro Hanma? The ministry has prepared a test to find out.
What happens if he fails the test? Does the other guy get a bye?
Exactly. Yeah. That was that seemed like a plot hole to me.
And you know what the craziest thing is? Like, what I want to say is the 12 stuff that they just threw that in there. Like, at the end of the day, it's a tournament. You need 16 people or 8 or 32. But this tournament, I won't spoil it, but it goes so off the rails that it wouldn't have mattered. Like, the Rai-tai tournament doesn't need a bracket. I agree. You could have just done 12. But you need a lot of... In a show like Baki, you have a lot of strong people, and you need a lot of people to... a lot of mooks for them to just obliterate. So there are 12 Kaios in this tournament.
Okay. You can't just have the Buffalo Bills losing every week. You need 12 different guys to lose. I got it.
Exactly. Very down on a team that's like 6-3?
6-3, and we'll probably win the Super Bowl this year. But I don't know what I did wrong in a prior life to end up as a Buffalo Bills fan, but I'm certainly paying the price for it.
So yeah, as you were alluding to this, the first match, and for some reason the only match that is shown on the bracket, is Yujiro Hanma versus Kaio Ryu. So Yujiro Hanma, as we're all familiar with, is Baki's dad, the big red-headed guy. Kaio Ryu is somebody who's come up a few times in this show. He looks like Zeus. He is absolutely ginormous, has beady eyes, which they occasionally just make it look like he has no eyes. But he is Kyoretsu's master, and we've never seen him fight on the show before, so I think a lot of people were probably looking forward to this fight. But before we get to the results of that, the Chinese Martial Arts Commission decrees that Yujiro has to prove himself. And so this is a man who we just watched kick the ground so hard that people thought a terrorist attack had happened. Yujiro's done so many incredible things, but they've decided that the way to prove himself is they've wheeled out 40 roof tiles and put them on a pile, and they're going to see how many of them he can break.
40.
Yeah, not just 10. Well, if you did 10, you would be quite strong.
Someone who's able to break through 10 of them stacked together would be considered very strong. Today we've prepared 40 of them, a tall tower of tiles.
So they probably put 40 out there to be like, let's see how many he can do. So what does he do, Dad?
He just sort of puts his hand on the top of the pile and then obliterates them. I don't even think he did a karate chop. I think he just sort of obliterated them in like half a second. And it like they go on, as they do on everything, they go on and on about talking about this test, and then it's totally irrelevant.
Yep. And yeah, he doesn't do a wind up at all. He puts his hand on it and then presses down onto it. There's no limit to Yujiro's strength, and it just feels like Baki likes to use very mundane feats like that are also tough to abstract. Like, how difficult is it to break 40 roof tiles? I've never broken one, but like, I don't know. Like, are you? How impressed were you when he broke the 40 roof tiles?
Not very, because as a father, I've broken 50 or 60 on multiple occasions myself. So yeah. I didn't even think the test.
You were trying to fix the roof at that point.
That's the problem. I had to keep buying new ones. Yeah. It was. The mere fact that they required a test, and then that it was such an underwhelming test, those two didn't go hand in hand. Because you've got the world's greatest fighters, they'll gather for the once in 100 years, and just before you get in the ring here, let's see you do this. It was funny. The lead up to it was kind of funny, but then when he just obliterated it, it was okay. Let's move on to something more interesting or extremely gross.
Well, on the topic of like anti-climaxes, so this fight, the first time we ever get to see a Kaio Ryu fight versus Yujiro, who we also haven't really seen in a real fight. We haven't seen Yujiro have to really try for something. So this fight had a lot of stakes going into it. You want to give me the play-by-play?
Yeah, okay. So I don't know the other guy, but they sort of come at each other, and then you see Baki's father's got him in a grip with his hand on his face, and he says, "Don't move or you'll regret it." And the guy sort of moves, and Baki's father rips his face off and throws it into the crowd, and the blood splatters on the people in the front row, and that's it. Like, the fight's 2 seconds, 3 seconds?
Yep. I can't argue. I wouldn't want to keep fighting if someone ripped my face off.
It's like something that's contemporary. The comedian Gallagher just passed away, and he was known for smashing watermelons, and the people in the front row would always get splashed with fruit that he would hit with a sledgehammer on the stage. So it's similar if you're in the front row, I guess. What's Baki's dad's name? Junichiro or something? Yujiro. If you're in the front row of one of his fights, you should wear a cape as well. It's really pretty gross, actually. I gather that that's not the first time you get gross stuff in the series.
So it's a gross show at times. I will say this is like I'm gonna say it's the grossest thing that's happened on the show so far, but also the second time someone's face came off. So it's got competition, but this was
there's a bit of a follow up, right? Because I don't know, for some reason the guy comes back.
Well, Retsu comes out to defend his master's honor.
Yujiro Hanma!
Retsu! It's Kaio Retsu!
Well,
You bastard! I challenge you to a fight! Right here and right now!
So it was Retsu's master is the guy who had his face ripped off.
Yes.
Okay. He comes out and then Ushiro or
Yujiro.
Yes. I apologize. It's impossible. But he makes sort of like one last stab at defending his honor. And am I correct that Yujiro, Baki's dad, does a rather impolite way of ending this fight? He appeared to me to kick him where he should have got a warning from the referee. And that seemed to be the end of the fight.
That happens a fair amount in this show. Yeah, to be fair, if the ref didn't say anything after you rip a guy's face off, he's not going to blow the whistle for a below-the-belt kick. Editor's note, I assumed, I misremembered this. I assumed my dad was implying that Yujiro kicked Ryu in the balls, but he actually just kicked him in the spot where his face used to be, which I do agree is a bit underhanded.
See, that seemed like just rubbing it. One step too far. Yeah, throw the flag, unsportsmanlike conduct.
throw the face in, yeah. I'm just glad that the towel ended up on the guy's face, so we don't have to see his gross.
We saw his
for
gross,
too long.
We saw his teeth, right, covered in blood, and you were afraid that they were going to pull the towel back, and you would see the eye sockets and the nose and all that. But fortunately, we didn't. That was a rough day for him, I would say.
Yeah. And so that's the last fight we ever see of Kaio Ryu, to my knowledge. So it's just a really sad ending to a guy who looked really badass for about a whole season, and then instantly got his face ripped off.
That's the only episode I've seen. So he doesn't fit in my badass Hall of Fame. He bit of a loser, actually, from what I saw of him.
I see. So that's and right after that, I believe it goes straight into the end credits.
Credits, like it was like they ran out of time or something. You know, that classic plan ahead where you don't have space for the D sign.
Yeah,
it was like it ended instantly.
Did you enjoy the credits? Did you watch them all the way, or?
Well, on my version, the credits only went for like 2 or 3 seconds, and then it launched into episode 2. So.
Yeah, it does that by default. Yeah, that's fine. Well, I'm sure if you've listened to this podcast, people keep trying to talk about the end credits, so that means that the second guest will have something to talk about. So that's that was the first episode of the Rai-tai tournament. One Kaio down, 15 competitors remaining. Who do you think's gonna win the whole thing?
If I had to put money on it, there's 3 people who I think could win. Baki, Baki's father,
of course,
and the 146-year-old guy. I don't know why. I like to bet on underdogs or long shots, so I'd probably put a few bucks on him. Although Muhammad Ali Jr. is not in it, is he? Or is
no,
he?
He is. He is. He'll be
yes. Okay. So he would also. It's not going to be one of those random Kaio Mo guys. I'm going to make a field bet on all the other characters, so it's going to be one of those.
Yeah, I think that's a fair bet. We'll see. You know what? I think I'm gonna add that. I'm gonna ask every guest who they think's gonna win this.
So if I have to pick one, If I'm forced to pick one, who I would put I would put my money on the old guy because I'm going to get good odds. I'm probably going to get 15 or 20, maybe even 100 to 1 on him. And maybe they'll try and teach some lesson about age and knowledge and wisdom being an important part of martial arts. So
he's got to at least put up a fight, or else you're just sending a 146-year-old man to die, you know?
I hope he does better than today's loser. So.
Oh man.
Yeah, it wouldn't be right to just send him out there and get him ripped to smithereens in one punch because he's 146 and what did you expect? So they won't do that with it. Although, who knows? I mean, was it written and recorded in Japanese and then dubbed into English?
Yeah, it's made in Japan first.
So I'm just so curious about whether it's so the narrators are so square in Japan, because the way they talk and like when the announcer is talking about the 100-year fight and we are here for the first time in 100 years, everybody's so square. It's just,
honestly, if I had to guess, it's probably more so in the original translation. Like, really? I think they're just trying to get across that this is a sporting event the likes of which we have never seen. Like, it's a once in 100-year event, key to China's identity, the culmination of 4,000 years of martial arts. I think they're just trying to get across that there's no comparison. This is like if the Olympics happened every 100 years, you know?
And you had forgot to plan it in advance, so you were throwing people into the tournament at the last second. If those two things held, then it would be comparable.
Exactly. So, Dad, question for you that I like to ask everybody. Now that you've watched an episode of Baki, do you think it's a good show?
It's so bad it's almost good, and I can see the appeal from that perspective, because they play it so straight. It's almost like an inside joke. It's so droll, so it's good from that perspective, but mostly from the it's so bad it's good, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, I get you. Oh my gosh. If I didn't edit out the pause whenever I ask that question, everybody has a pause as they try and politely say no.
How do we not hurt your feelings while still being somewhat true? Yeah.
Exactly.
No, well, I mean, the other show I actually watched the very first Norm Macdonald podcast with Super Dave.
So good.
Recently. And Super Dave is kind of like this as well, because it's all phony and farce in his character, but he never breaks character. So to some extent, which makes him funny. To some extent, like, this is so corny, but it never breaks character. So it's kind of good in that way. It does make it enjoyable, you know. Like it has a sincerity
to it, you know.
Yes, exactly. That they never break, they never give up on. So I actually think it's good from that perspective.
Oh man, well that about wraps up episode 1 of season 2. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
I did not. Well, I did want to say that I was getting the sense, I don't know, tell me if I'm off base on this, but I thought the father-son relationship had a few issues between Baki and his old man.
Yep, he hates his dad. Yeah, we glossed over the part of the episode where Baki tries to talk to his dad, and he basically says, like, "Get out of here, loser."
Yes.
Yeah, kiddo.
I thought that was a little cold.
Yeah. No, we'll get some more deep dives into that this season, which will be more fun. But yeah, that I'm looking forward to that. Hope you guys have enjoyed the first episode of season 2. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, consider joining the Discord, or if you go on our YouTube channel, I even made a music video for Baki, which is doing surprisingly well. I'll tell you about that after we finish. But that's all the Baki we've got to talkie. So see y'all next week.
生ぬるい夢よりも熱すぎ